Yo, Node Investor here. I am back. I'm live again. Just so you guys know. I was live just a little while ago, but I was on a private live stream with my group and it was talking. Busy day. Oh my goodness. What a day. What a day. Let's take a look at the charts. So let me see here. I'm thinking you guys can see my screen and hear me okay, possibly, hopefully. But so interesting little pattern, equilibrium pattern forming on Bitcoin right now. We had that big attempt off the low, pulled in, starting to get real tight here. So over the course of this live stream, you're going to see this play out. That's going to be real interesting to watch. You can see the higher lows attempting to form here, the resistance coming in. And so we'll see how it goes. So please don't mind my voice. I've been on the mic quite a bit today. I'm trying to drink the tea and the water and keep it fresh. But hey, it's all good. So let's see here. A couple of things. Big picture first, right? People want to know, is this the bottom? Where is the support levels? How low could it go? And I'll kind of give you my my different levels that I'm looking at here. Obviously, nobody really knows. The market could bottom at any point or continue lower for much longer. But we'll see. We will learn. We will find out here soon enough. Let me go to my chart here. I'm kind of looking at my other screen and trying to talk and think all at the same time. It's a hard thing to do. You'd be surprised. Read comments, look at charts, look at other screens, talk. Oh, man. Let me get my bearings straight here. So real quick, big picture first. Big thing to look at here is the magnitude of the move we've seen down and we've seen here just in the last couple of days, the last 2 weeks, right? So, I mean, we were grinding our way lower and then all of a sudden it was the acceleration really started to pick up. The pain really started to pick up. And so last week we saw a pretty big volume reversal here. This first attempt off the lows, it looked like maybe that was it. Volume was okay, but not certainly the highest that we've seen. And we didn't actually break that RSI 30 level that I was looking at, but it was an attempt, right? And so the next level down we're seeing today, we've got what, hour and a half or so to the left on this daily candle. So we'll see how that forms. I'd like to see a lot more volume coming in, but if you start to zoom in a little bit here and you look at the, sorry about that. If you look at the, this is the 4-hour daily on the 4-hour on Bitfinex. Certainly the volume is starting to really pick up here at these lows, and we'll start to look at GDAX and we'll look at some of these other names, and there's signs, right, that it's trying to find some support here. If anything, for a little bit of a relief rally at least, and we'll see how high that goes. But right now, we're bouncing right into the key moving average. That's just been the wall. I mean, look at all the way down this 10 EMA, right? We'll get these little rally attempts into it, but just can't hold it. It just continues to sell off. Here we are. We had a pretty big 1-hour reversal, but couldn't close above it. And right now it's starting to pull in a little bit here. And so there's that. This is on Bitstamp. This is on Coinbase. Now, GDAX has seen some of the bigger volume here at the lows. So it's curious to see how that's going to play out. You can see the big green reversal bar there. And if you start to zoom in 5 minutes, you can see here, this is the 5-minute candle. Just some of the big volume coming in. Volume is really starting to get quiet here on this little bit of a consolidation. So it'll be interesting to watch. The level I want to see it hold right now is near term, at least. This is the 5-minute. So just more from a very short term perspective. I want to see if it can hold this little secondary pullback that it had following the big move off the low. And so if it can, or even maybe undercut it slightly and then start to head up again, then that'll be a pretty good sign that for now, the market's trying to rally off of this very extreme, very oversold near-term conditions, right? So you can see the RSI on the 1 hour here was at 17. And so they just, even if it does pull back a little bit and start to test this downside, that just goes to show you that for the near term, right, we're just have hit an extreme selling pressure here. So you can see the last time we saw something of that magnitude, right, you can see the spikes down here on the RSI. They tend to at least mark a point where the market wants to take a breather. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to just shoot straight back up. But you can see, we had that attempt here, we had this attempt here, and here we are again, following a massive volume reversal, seeing that low attempt again. And so those are, I guess I wouldn't say they're bullish signs, but those are signs that maybe the market is trying to take a pause here to the downside, trying to find a low. But there's got to be confirmation yet, right? We've not seen that. And this, all things equal, if you just look at this chart, the daily chart, right, that's still a very bearish daily chart. But look at that volume here on Coinbase, pretty significant there. Not as much on some of the other exchanges, but still very significant. So let me go to the longer term view. So some have asked, how low could this go? Is it going to continue to 5K, 4K, right? Somebody said 1K. So this is the way I'm looking at it, because the short answer is it's anyone's guess at this point, right? But this is what I'd be looking at here. So I did a couple of things. First, I'm going to look at just a straight fib retracement, right? This is there's always a couple ways to look at it, but if you looked at the move from basically 1,000, right, this dip just below 1,000, which I like to say we kind of started this big rally because the prior high was 1,100, and this is where we broke out of. But if you look at this move that took place all the way up to the highs, the first retracement level, this 382 key fib level, was at 12.4. We hit that, bounced a few times, rallied, and then we broke that. Here in the last couple of days, we've retested and broke below the next level around 8K. Now, 8K was looking like it wanted to hold here for a bit because it was kind of undercutting it and bouncing. And if you look at the 4-hour chart, before we broke down here the last couple of days, we were really starting to build a little bit of a consolidation here, and it was kind of bouncing between that little zone there. But here we are undercutting it. And now if we can still rally above it, then that'll be a pretty significant recovery there. But we got to see a big reversal here with volume coming in. But this little zone here, 7,500 to 8K, was a big support level that we really needed to test and close above. We did last week, but this week just really breaking down. Now there's still a couple hours left in this bar, so if it turns into a big wick, that'll be a good sign. But for now, that's being breached. Now below that, just price point wise, the next real big support level was during this little pullback prior base. That's around 5,900, 5,800, give or take. So that's in that zone right there. And then below that, the big support level, as I like to call it, is the that 5,000, right? That's that huge base we saw that formed over August, September, the China FUD, Jamie Dimon, all that fun stuff that broke out. And that was a massive base, the last big base we had prior to the big run up that led us up to 20K, right? This was a little bit of a base, but that was following the fork and SegWit and some of that, and that's not really that huge. But when you had this base, right, this is multi-month, that's a lot more significant, a lot stronger of a support / resistance level, right, once it broke out. And so that also happens to correlate with a key fib ratio. So that's the level I'm looking at. Doesn't mean we go straight down from there, and most likely we won't. We'll bounce, we'll do something like that. But over the longer term, if this continues to grind its way down, right, maybe we do something like that where it starts to do that, but ultimately maybe that's the level that it wants to settle in around that 5K. Now, 5K would be a significant low point, in my opinion, a significant bottom. I would certainly, that's like my back up the truck level if I see that level. But from a trading perspective, right, so if you're doing trading, if you're doing some more of that, we're starting to hit some oversold levels near term. I'm thinking we're going to see a pretty decent bounce here, but we're not confirmed it yet. We're trying at this point, but it's certainly not confirming it. So we had that first rally attempt. We're pulling in a little bit. Volume's not too bad on this pullback. And so far, I'm going to see if, how low this goes below this first secondary attempt. You want to start seeing a series of higher lows form. Right now, it's not doing that yet, but you want to see those big volume reversals as it starts to test some of that support. So throughout the live stream, I'm sure we'll see this thing play out here over the next couple of minutes to hour or so. So let's see here. Let me go through some of the other ones. Some of the stronger names that are just kind of standing out from a relative strength. There's really nothing strong out there. Let me just put it that way. But what you want to look for is, what's bouncing fastest, or what's not coming down as much this second leg during this crazy market sell-off, right? So what I'm looking at here is just kind of cycling through. What are those names sticking out right now? Litecoin is one. We had a pretty decent rally attempt on Litecoin off the lows here. Let me go to the 4-hour chart of Litecoin. And you can see the volume coming in. This is Litecoin on GDAX. And so this second low attempt hasn't undercut that first very big wick. So we came down, we're pulling in, so we undercut it and just saw massive volume coming in here at these lows right around that 113, 110 level or so. So that's standing out. Now, Litecoin BTC, you can see this chart here. After that bottom here down at the lows, it rallied and it's just sitting tight. Now, granted, it is pulling in on the USD chart because of what the market is doing, right? But look at how tight this is sitting versus BTC. So if the market can try to find a low here and start to edge out, this may be one to keep an eye on as far as a name that outperforms Bitcoin. So I'm watching Litecoin. It is probably the better of the charts out there right now. And so that's got to be, you got to keep an eye on that. Let's look at Ethereum. So Ethereum here, this is Ethereum on GDAX. Let me go to this shorter term time frame. So it's same kind of general pattern that a lot of these are going to have here when we zoom in. This is a 5 minute. I'm just zooming in just very near term in light of the market action, just to see a little bit more granular of a look here. But 1 hour, you can see here just consistently, continues to be a wall here on this 10 EMA. So that blue line here on my chart is the shorter term moving average. And you can see even this big 1 hour volume reversal went above it, but just couldn't close above it here. And here we are starting to break down a little bit. So it's just, that's been the wall, right? And we got to start closing above that for the momentum to start to shift a little bit, even if it's going to be near term. And you can see the 4 hour, that's way up here still. So we've got a ways to go. But the 1 hour and the 30 minutes, that's kind of the near term charts that I look at as far as making some potential entries on trades. So let's see here. What's another one that was standing out earlier? Cardano was trying to hold up a little bit here at the lows, trying to rally. You can see Cardano in the last couple of 1 hour bars trying to round out a little bit of a base here, trying to round out a pattern to see if that holds. You're going to want to see these lows hold right here, but there's some volume starting to come in on the right side. If you go to the 4 hour charts, again, another one that hasn't undercut that first low that we saw last week. So this one had a pretty significant, very oversold bounce. I mean, this RSI on this thing was 13, and that was a significant percent move off the low. You can see peak to peak. Now, I know there was these big wicks here, but that's 46%. And here it is pulling in, and it's trying to round out a little bit of a low point here in the last day or so. And so this one's actually holding up a little bit better than some of these others. And so looking at, let me see, IOTA, I think I was looking at earlier. Seen some pretty big selling reversal there. Probably not good on IOTA. And so many of these are going to look real similar. You're going to see this big like double bottom attempt on some of these. Here's NEO, really undercut NEO on the second low here. We saw NEO last week hit 100, saw a huge buying support come in there, but just couldn't break above this resistance and just really sold off hard today. Granted, that was the China news, hit some of these names a lot harder, but you can see NEO just really under pressure, undercut this low. Let's see here, Omisego, how's that one looking? Misego, same thing on the USD side. Had a big attempt, was actually looking pretty decent on the BTC chart until, oh, never mind, I was looking at another one. No, never mind. Let me see here. What was the other one? Quantum. Quantum was trying to set up here on this daily for the last couple of weeks to month, and just unfortunately really breaking down here. You can see it was sitting tight, a little choppier, but it was starting to sit really tight here a few weeks ago, and then just really breaking down here. So some of those names are just getting hit really hard right now. VeChain, someone was asking about that earlier. Pretty good move off the low from a volume perspective. See if it can hold. So this one is one where the 1 hour momentum is starting to shift a little bit. It's now starting to close above that 1 hour 10 EMA. And then again, this is versus BTC. So obviously if Bitcoin's taking a hit, it's going to pull this one down, but we'll see where that one goes. Okay, so those are the kind of the names I wanted to point out real quick. We'll cycle through some of the list here. We'll go through some of the coin market cap and take a look at the bigger names, and we'll go through there. But just some thoughts on the overall market, right? How bottoms happen, how it looks, how it plays out. The fear levels right now are extreme, right? And rightly so. I understand that, right? There's just in the last 30 days, I mean, you look at where we were at 17.2, and here we are 29 daily bars later, and it's come down 60%, and we're sitting sub 7K. And that is significant. That's a huge move to the downside, with the last several days being a big portion of that, right? You see just 30-40% move just in the last week, after breaking down from this support base. So from a big picture perspective, right? And I just went through the big long-term support levels, right? Is it done? Is it the bottom? Probably not. And there's really no way to tell, unless you just see it like right now, just a big collapse and capitulation reversal, right? But near term, right? I'm seeing RSI below 30 on the daily. On all the 4-hour charts, it's just hit extreme levels, right? We're at 20 right now. In the hourlies, we were at very low levels earlier. We were at 19, 20. And so from a very near-term perspective, it feels like we're due for a bounce, right? It feels like we're due for a little bit of a relief rally, and nothing goes straight up or straight down. And thinking we're going to see some sort of relief rally. Now, is it the rally that marks the low? Do we go up 10%, 20%, and then turn around from there, right? That's yet to be seen. And we're a long ways from confirming any type of breakout or reversal on the longer term charts. I mean, that's just going to take a lot more time. In the near term, however, especially if you're doing a little bit more trading, that's what you're looking for, right? You're seeing these lows. You're saying, okay, I'm going to start gearing up for some oversold bounce attempts, because that's basically what's going to happen. You're going to see some attempts at these oversold bounces. We saw the first sign of that here a few hours ago with that 1-hour oversold bounce, but just couldn't close above. And here we are starting to reverse and break down a little bit. Let me go to that 5-minute chart here. And so that's what you want to start looking for, right? Those signs. But the problem is right now there's just so much fear, so much worry in the markets that any rally attempts are just going to be sold into because of that, right? And at the end of the day, those major low points are marked by the final panic selling, right? The big, I can't take it anymore. I thought that was the low, and then just dumping everything at the lows, and then you just see the big like snap down, washout, and then it's done for a little bit, right? Doesn't mean it's the low, but then at that point, you tend to have a little bit of a relief rally, and those relief rallies, man, who knows, right? They could go 20%, 30%, 40%. So if we rallied, let's say we rallied from this point on, right? What are some of the key resistance levels to be looking at? Now, this 8,000, which we were trying to bounce around here, that's going to be the first level that we got to take out, and that's the first near-term resistance, right? Before that, I was really looking for it to clear above that 9,200. That was the level we tried, just couldn't get above. So that's going to really be the level that I'm going to be watching. And on the daily chart, that just happens to correspond with this 10 EMA right now. So if we do rally going into that, so more like 9,000 or so, it's going to be the big test first. And then above that, this big base, the descending triangle that broke down, that was the level that really accelerated the selling, because that was this descending pattern, which is a bearish pattern when they break. And on a closing basis, 10, 7, 10, 5, 10, 6, that little zone was the level that had been holding. We had seen these attempts below it, these wicks, but they held it. Once it closed below that, you saw how fast that accelerated to the downside. And so that's going to be a major resistance point if we have a big bounce, right? So that's going to be the level I'm watching. As far as if you're trading, if you're taking some early positions, then start looking into those levels as a potential turning points for a resistance. Now, let's do a fib on this. If we do just from this last intermediate swing here, do a retracement on that. Again, this is very preliminary, but let's say it bottoms here. Then a fib retracement, if you look at the different levels, Just, I mean, that 786, oh man, that lines up pretty well actually. But if you look at the first level, right, that's the 382 levels at 8600, then the next level's at 9800, and then the last big level is at 107. So that would line up with that resistance point. So could we see a bounce into that level? Yeah, but it just depends on where we bottom, right? I mean, if you extend this down, obviously, depending on where the low hits, what if it's there, right? What if it's 5 or 7? Then it's going to change the assessment there. Um, so those are the resistance points to be looking at near term. Let's zoom in a little bit. So again, just to kind of recap again, the 10 EMA has just been that wall. It's a moving average, but just can't seem to close above it, right? The last time we tried and we failed was right here. And this was over the weekend. And this, I was really starting to watch it. I was getting close. I hadn't taken any positions here. I was just kind of waiting, trying to be patient. I wanted to see it close above that 8,400. It was getting very tight. I was thinking maybe we break out, and then instead it just really broke down. So that's going to be the next level to really watch. But for now, this 10 EMA is really if we could start to close above it, it'll start to look a lot better. Some of the names are starting to, but right now it's just really been selling, just the relentless downside action. See if we can bounce here a little bit. This second attempt at the low, maybe we form a little bit of a double bottom on the very short-term charts. Give me one sec here. Gotta take a sip of my coffee. And no, there's nothing in it. Just coffee. EOS. Let's take a look at EOS here. Yeah, so a lot of these charts are going to be doing this real similar 4-hour attempt at a double bottom here. We're a long ways from confirming that, but that's the pattern I'm looking at for right now. Do a TA on Tether. Man, I should have listened to CNBC when they said buy Tether. Tether was like the greatest investment ever. What was I thinking? I should have just sold everything and bought Tether. Oh, man. No, don't buy Tether, guys. That's a joke. Look at this here. FBTC on GDAX. GDAX, Coinbase has just seen a ton of volume here. The second pullback's actually holding up a lot better on this one. We'll see here. Let me go back to Litecoin. Litecoin hitting 124. Let me go to that 5 minutes. We undercut this here that I started at the live stream. We'll see how that plays out. Actually, it's kind of nice when you see that undercut and then rally above, because it takes out some of those stops, and then let's see if it goes from there. Not looking strong, though. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing strong looking about any of these charts at the moment. It's very much a keeping an eye out for reversal patterns off the low. And the signs you look for are volume, you look for reversal patterns, you look for things like double bottoms, inverted head and shoulders, big volume reversals to the upside. I mean, that's really it. It's more of a patient waiting type of thing. And so what I was telling someone else earlier, if you're inclined to be trading in this market, keep in mind we're trading in an environment where there's headwinds, where the trend is going against you, where the selling pressure is much stronger than the buying side. But if you are going to be trading, if you're doing, these oversold bounce plays, that sort of thing, which I will also do from time to time, you got to keep it small. You got to not get as aggressive, right? If you're normally trading X%, whatever that may be for you, then make that position smaller than you normally would. Keep your stops a little bit tighter than you normally would, and just kind of take smaller nibbles and attempts at it, just because technical analysis, right? It's very much putting the odds in your favor, right? It's a probabilities thing. It's looking at past precedents. It's looking at, overbought, oversold indicators, volume patterns, bases, support and resistance. And so you want to put the odds in your favor as much as you can. And when you're trading in a market environment that is moving this direction, it's very difficult because the odds are not in your favor, right? The chances of you being wrong on a base or on a breakout, it's just much higher because the momentum, broader market momentum, is to the downside, right? Do we get these big rallies off the lows? Absolutely, right? We saw it here just last week where Neo went from 94 to 120, $130 or whatever. That's huge move, right? And you don't even need to get the whole move to make a decent trade. I mean, even this rally, right? That's 15%. But all around, the odds are still not in your favor, right? When you're doing these trading, you want to be trading in an environment where it's going like this, right? Where the momentum is stronger, because then you're a little bit more confident in the breakouts. You can hold it a little longer. You can put a little bit of a wider stop. And these environments just make for a little bit better like swing trade type styles. In the current environment, uh, normally you just take your profits quicker. You kind of in and out a little bit faster, or you're just sitting tight and just waiting it out, right? You're just kind of on the side, and just going to wait until things look a little bit better before getting in, because only thing worse than trading in a very straight down market is trading in a choppy market, and that is just very frustrating when you're up down up down up down, just because it makes it a lot tougher. You want to be in a trending market. So let's see here. So Litecoin, let's go through the list here real quick. We talked Bitcoin, we talked Ethereum. Let's look at Ripple. I had Ripple on the charts earlier. Ripple had that, this is Ripple USDT on Polo. Ripple had that huge volume reversal, but just saw a lot of selling near the top here. That was pretty good volume here on this green bar, but then this red bar was just almost as big volume reversal, and just hasn't really been able to see any follow through to the upside. So see if we can put in a little bit of a double bottom on this shorter term time frame, but right now not as strong as some of these other names in terms of trying to attempt a bounce here. So that's Ripple. Did we look at Bitcoin Cash yet? I don't think we did. Let's look at Bcash here. Oh, a little bit of green there. Nope, it's gone. Spoke too soon. Let's see here. So Bitcoin Cash, again, another one that was coming off the lows with some pretty decent volume. I mean, just look at that on Bitfinex. Now, it has more volume on Bitfinex than some of the other exchanges, but again, the 10 EMA, that's the wall there so far. If we can start to close above that 940, 950 zone on Bitcoin Cash, then that would signify a pretty good higher low here at this point. But for now, not seeing it there. It's trying. A lot of these are trying, though. These 4-hour bars, they're just so oversold right now, and they're just so stretched. If you look at how far they are from just the very short-term time frame, moving average, right? Earlier, we were 20% below the 10 EMA, and so by all means, that's stretched to the downside. Bitcoin, 6,700, sub 7. Man, Bitcoin. Let's see here on this 5 minutes, we saw a little bit of a washout bar. We're trying to rally now. Nope. Tough, man. This is some tough trading here. Some markets that are just we're the buyers. No one's buying. That's the problem. Sellers are showing up at every rally attempt. Those of you that are holding, trying to get out of your positions, or selling the rallies. And so we're continuing to see that. Let's see here. Dash, $437 Dash. Wow, that's come off the highs big time. Look at this big retracement. We broke below that 786 fib level, continuing to drop here. Let me see. The last big base was really the old highs around that 400 mark, and maybe we're almost there. Dash, that's a significant pullback on Dash. Now versus BTC, it's interesting to see that it's just kind of putting in this little downtrend. It's got this overhead downtrend. So when the markets decide to turn around, I'm going to be watching to see if maybe this breaks the downtrend, and will it outperform in a shorter time frame. Stellar. Take a look at the lumens. let's see here. So this is Lumen's BTC. These are just some old lines I was watching. Yeah, that's just a really choppy chart here on the 1 hour. I mean, there's this rally attempt, but there's just no volume there. Let's look on some of the other ones here. Stellar Tether on Polo. A little bit of a double bottom here. Let me see. But yeah, you can see these rally attempts straight into that moving average. They just get sold off pretty hard so far. And slight bullish divergence on the RSI there, on the Tether side. BTC side. It's just really choppy. Let's go to another chart. Talked Litecoin, we talked NEO, we talked Stellar, EOSNAM, we talked Dash. Let's get Monero. Then I want to start moving to some of their smaller cap names. So go ahead and throw them out there. I'll start looking at some of these other charts. Silver and gold. You guys want to talk metals? I do watch the metals. Actually got a nice little watch list here with some metal stuff that I've been looking at. But this is crypto. We're talking crypto today, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking at the Bitcoin. We're looking at the charts. Let's see here. BTC on Binance. Trying to bounce here. All right. What was the last one I was going to look at? Oh, Monero. Where's my Monero here? 0x, Icon, Zcoin. Yeah, I like Zcoin here. We'll look at that. Lusk. All right. So Monero, let me go to Monero on. Do I want to do a video on the metals? You know, that's not a bad idea. I might, just because it is a market that I'm starting to get a little bit more active in. So looking at Monero here, and what I'm starting to see in some of these charts, but what you want to pay attention to is this, right? You see this double bottom trying to form on this chart. This is Monero USDT on Polo. And you can see the first low, on the closing candle basis, it was basically 198, 200 or so. And then this second low cut it down to 166. But if you look at the RSI levels, right, we hit this pretty extreme level down here. This was 20 and 17 RSI. And then you put another low, but with a little bit higher RSI. Now, it's not a huge divergence, but when you start to see that, you want to start paying attention, right? Because it starts to signify that the downside momentum is waning a little bit. Does it mean it's the low? Does it mean that it just rallies from here? Absolutely not, right? It's not necessarily a buy signal in and of itself. But you start to stack those things up, right? You look at the volume patterns. How's the volume on this dip? How's the buy volume versus sell volume? Is there a bullish divergence on the RSI? Does it line up with a previous support level or something? And you start to add as many of those together as you can to help you with, is it a good entry point or not? Is it going to bounce from here, right? So that's what I look at. Now let's look at support. You can see here the last, there's not really a ton of support. There's these brief pauses that it would give you, but nothing substantial, right? There's another little brief pause there. No real big base, until you get back to the lows here. So right now we're basically at this last little consolidation on Monero here at around that 170s or so. The last one or above that was here, which that's where it was trying to hold a couple days ago, and that's where it broke down from. But again, like most, look at how far on the daily chart, look at how far low this is. This is 30, at one point was more than 30% from the very short-term moving average. And that's just extreme. Every time we've seen it get that far down, there tends to be a pretty good snapback to the upside. And we've seen that several times in the past. Back here, right, you saw it was 33%. Does it mean it goes straight up? Of course not, but it could just snap back into the moving average and then start doing a little bit of a base type of thing like here, like we saw in the September timeframe or so. And so that's what I'm looking out for. I'm starting to pay attention to those signs on a lot of these charts where what's holding up the best. Is there double bottoms? Is there divergences? Is there anything like that, right? But at this point, I'm not going to get too aggressive here. I'm just going to be waiting this one out. Let's go through a couple. Okay, I'm going to look at some of these other ones you guys want to look at. ITX. Pretty good volume coming in at the lows here on this one. This is ICX BTC, of course. So if you look at ICX USD, it's not going to look anywhere near that. It's going to be really rough. And that's the thing, right? Most of these alts, they're underperforming versus BTC. And with Bitcoin getting hit as hard as it is, the USD pair is just really, really bad here. So, but if you look at the very near term, I'm looking at the 5 minutes. This one's actually held up pretty good off of this. So a lot of these had in the last hour have had this rally attempt and they're pulling in. So like we saw on Bitcoin, let me go back real quick. All right, this one pulled in much deeper. All right, you can see ICX is not as deep, so that's pretty good there. The one I was looking at was sub. How's that looking here? Yeah, this one's pulling in a little bit more here on the 1 hour. Just that wall, that 10 EMA has just been that wall and sub here. We did Ripple already. Zcoin. Let me go Zcoin here on Bittrex. Now versus BTC, this one's actually been pretty tight here. And look at how quiet the volumes got here in this last couple of weeks or so. I mean, just it's going flat here, going really, really tight, but just there was a lot of accumulation on the way up and it's just been sitting tight. So it's going to be interesting to see that one break out. If we can start to get some upside. That's ugly. If we get some upside momentum here. Small volume name though, so that's why these I'm looking at the shorter term time frames and they're just very choppy. Let's see here. Omise Go. So this is Omise Go versus BTC here again. Had that nice move up off the lows and just kind of sitting tight here versus BTC. But if you look at the tether pair, it's just basically right back down to this prior base here at the lows. So it's the level I'm looking at. But man, what's the RSI on this? 30. We bouncing yet? That's all it is at this point, guys. It's a bounce for most of these. It's pretty good volume on that first attempt. Really quiet volume on this. How much time? So we just started a new 1 hour bar 15 minutes ago. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get some volume coming in a lot of these. If you're seeing this type of pattern where we had the rally and a little bit of a pullback, I mean, if we can start to close above that first little swing point, that's going to be at least a little bit of a sign that, hey, there's some momentum switching in the near term. It's definitely not, at least not for me, it's not a signal to go all in or anything. But if you're doing some trading or something, that might not be a bad way to look at it here. Versus BTC, this one's pulling in a little bit here. Let me see what Bitcoin's doing. So trying to rally. It's trying. It's trying. CND. Yeah, so look at the difference here, right? You had the rally and this one's pulling in. Got to wait for this one to close above here near term. Not seeing as much upside strength as some of these other ones. Even at the lows, that really wasn't a ton of buy volume there at the lows. This is the 30-minute chart versus BTC, and the red is just so much stronger. The selling pressure is so much stronger than the little bit of a bounce volume we had. Let me go through your list here. I'm gonna pick some out. Tron, I haven't looked at that one in a little bit. How's Tron looking? Anybody still holding Tron? Man, look at that daily chart. I'm always surprised when I go like to Binance. Tron is just always at the top of the list in terms of volume. It just trades tons of volume here. So we saw that rally attempt. This one actually did close above that 1 hour 10 EMA. It's pulling in here, and now this new bar is trying to rally above it. Look at that 30-minute chart here. So like we just saw CND, right? This one looks stronger from a volume perspective. You can see the RSI is really starting to head up here. So again, I'm not talking in terms of longer term hodls or anything, but I know a lot of you guys are looking to do trades and some of that. And so those are the type of levels that I'm looking at, right? That's kind of confirmed if you see some short-term resistance levels being taken out here. So actually not too bad here. This second dip on Tron wasn't quite as deep as some of those other charts we saw there. All right, let's go. Lisk. Yeah, you just want to look at Lisk. So Lisk on the 4-hour chart. Are we doing any double bottom on this one yet? Man, I remember when Lisk had that big breakout. What was that all about? I didn't catch that. That's a choppy. Not a lot of buy volume here at the lows either on Lisk. Not as much as I'd like to see on these. When you see such a big green bar like that, you want that to be accompanied with much stronger buy volume. Right now, I mean, it feels just like a bounce. That's all it is, like a dead cat bounce. We're a long ways from most of these charts confirming any type of strong action. 10x. And with so much regulation and so much fear around, exchanges and cards and tokens and banks blocking people from buying Bitcoin and all that, I just see these type of token card projects are just going to have a lot of headwinds, unfortunately. I mean, the regulation is just going to really stifle so much innovation that was happening in the space with adoption of crypto and some of that for real use cases, for transactions, for ability to payment systems and some of that, and even just blockchain enterprise stuff. I mean, with the market just being regulated, and there was talk about, is the SEC going to label every token a security? And just the thought of that is just a huge overreach, because okay, some of them are securities. I totally see that. But when you think about the notion of people building their own cryptos on the blockchain for very niche markets, right? What if I'm a company and I want to do a rewards program and I want to have tokens? That's suddenly a security? Like, that's just crazy, right? Or if you're doing video game tokens, or if you're doing anything that's very, very narrow, very specific to an audience, the fact that it's going to be a security is just it's just crazy, And so there's just a lot of that, and that's partly what's causing a lot of this, right? There's just so much fear and so much regulation, and now that the markets have come down quite a bit, it almost feels like kick them while they're down. Now they're really rolling out the FUD and the regulation. So here's Monaco again, same thing, not particularly strong and really getting hit hard here. Let me see here. Let me go through a couple of these. BTC. Okay. Are we going to see it? Are we going to see another green bar? Man, look at all these. We need more green. Oh, let's see here. VeChain. Did we look at VeChain yet? Let's take a look at that one. Yeah, this one was having a pretty strong move off the low here. So you can see here, this is the 4-hour chart of VeChain, but look at that second low off that selling pressure, right? That just huge green hour bar. This still has, 34, 38 minutes left to close on this 4-hour bar. But if we can get above that 10 EMA, I mean, that's just going to be a nice reversal on VeChain. You can see here in the near term, this is the 1 hour. The 1 hour's pretty much stayed above that 10 EMA. It's starting to turn the corner. And so if you guys remember, like some of these other charts we were looking at 10 EMA is just that wall. Look, you can see it here very clearly. And then here it is trying to change the momentum. Let's see if we can stick around here. Yeah, this is a 30-minute chart of VeChain on Binance. Pretty good. Some pretty good buy volume here off the lows. Let me clear some of my lines here. Oops, not that one. You can see here I hop between trading view pretty frequently, so I use both. And you guys always ask which one do I like better. I think they both have their pluses. If I had to pick just one, I'd probably just go TradingView, especially since you can get a lot of it for free and do what you want. But CoinGee does have a paid version. You can do a trial. I use both. I like them both for different reasons. I think TradingView is probably more responsive in terms of the data feeds and the ticks and the ticks. You can see the data tick by tick almost real time. It's basically what I mean. But do I smoke? Do I sound like I smoke? I don't, but my throat's been pretty rough here. I'm trying to stay hydrated. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Zcash. I need some music. Should have put some music on, some tunes. Zcash. You know, one thing I was looking at on Zcash here. So this is Zcash BTC. And I was really liking this action here, right? So some of the accumulation volume that we've been seeing here, and it just got really quiet and starting to see a little bit more. And so I'm watching this one. I'm looking at this one longer term. I'm thinking, no, I haven't bought it here. So let me just be clear on that. But this is just the volume accumulation patterns here. This is one that's versus BTC has stopped coming down earlier than some of the other names. Now Zcash USD. All right, it's pretty much right back to this big resistance zone that it was putting in many months ago. So you can see here, we've pretty much retraced that entire move up. I mean, Zcash high 700s, and here we are right back down to around $300. So, but versus BTC, I'm kind of liking this little bit of accumulation that it's trying to put in here. So, got to keep an eye on Zcash. Let me see here. What else? I don't know how long I'm going to go. Man, I thought I'd be able to go like an hour or two. Well, I guess it's almost been an hour. Oh, what do I want to look at next here? Is there anything in the market cap that's green? Ooh, Tether. Tether's green. XPlay trades $19 million a day, 176 market cap. That's it. Wow. Let's go look at the chart. What exchange is that on? Sorry, I don't know much about XPlay. TideBit. Which of you guys are on TideBit? Let's see here. So we looked at Zcash, Binance, Stratus. Let's take a look at Stratus, ZRX, 0x. Not as strong as I would like to see it on this little bit of a bounce here. Not a lot of volume coming in, so I'm not one of the stronger names just yet. You can see how, I mean, it's getting stretched to the downside also, but this one's just, even on the daily chart, it still has some room to go. In my opinion, it's just broke support, and I mean, there's not anything major here along the way in terms of a major base or a major support zone. So we've got to see where this one decides to settle out. I do like this project longer term, so definitely going to keep an eye on this one, but right now it's just not looking particularly strong just yet. But hey, what is looking strong right here? All right, let's go back to BTC here real quick. So on this pullback, we've had, so we got about 32 minutes left on this current 1 hour bar. We've seen volume slightly declining on this pullback. That 10 EMA is still a big wall. Let's go to the 5 minutes here. There's an attempt at a little bit of a low here, in and around that 67, 68 level or so. We'll see if we can get any kind of more momentum on this upside. So you can see when we started this stream here earlier, we were doing this very tight equilibrium pattern here on BTC. We were trying to hold that. I wonder if that move measures out to that. Let's take a look. Breaks down. The target to the downside is the bottom of that, and that lines up pretty well, actually. Not too bad. So maybe this is a place where it wants to try to reattempt these levels here. But just so many headwinds right now, guys. It's just be patient. It's just so much. There's no real strength just yet, other than the fact that, hey, this has really stretched the downside and some major volumes coming in. Looking for a reversal here, but we haven't really seen it yet other than this 1 hour bar attempt. We got to give it a couple more 1 hour bars. Maybe this 1 hour bar is the one that decides to see some more volume coming in. So what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, I'm seeing numbers all over the place. Where's your low? Let me see. I'm seeing 3K here. I'm seeing 4K. What's the number you guys are looking at? Next bounce at around 6K, maybe. 55, 5, 5,300. And you know, some of those numbers line up. 4K in 2 months. 10K. 10K is not a low. 58, 55, 1250. You think we're going to retrace all the way down to 1,000? 3,700, 48, 35, 37, 5K, a lot of 5K, 42, 56, 49, 4.8K. 1 penny, 3,500, 3,700. Yeah, so very interesting, right? When you think about how many of us would have said 3K, 5K, 4,800 just 3 weeks ago, right? I mean, it's just real interesting. 5,000. So the question is, if we see Bitcoin drop to 5K, let's say that's the bottom. Let's say we have that big spike low and we drop all the way down to this prior base here around 4,900, 5K. Will you guys be buying at that point? I know the general public won't, because that's usually how it goes, right? People that are not in crypto right now, they're going to see the prices drop and they're going to say, see, not going to get in now. When I'm looking at it from a long-term perspective, I'm thinking, man, if I see 5K, that's going to be a great buying point, in my opinion, for me at least. At that point, I mean, if you're going to see 5K and it decides to drop a little bit more, I mean, you've already seen the brunt of the downside at that point. So that's my back up the truck level. But most people won't be buying though. That's just the way it works, unfortunately, is um and I can see why, right? It's scary. You see the price drop, 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 and then you see a massive drop. And who wants to buy that, right? Because it's gonna drop even further. Let's see here. You're gonna start buying from 6K. That's it's actually probably not a bad thought, right? If you start seeing some of these crazy selling prices and some of the selling pressures start scaling in a little bit more along the way. So another thought too, guys. So I'm going to digress a little bit, right? So just kind of taking the broader view. Like if you guys are some of you guys that watch the stock market, the market's been under massive pressure here in the last couple of days. You can see we had the Dow on Friday close down, 666 points, and then today down another 1,000. And so there's just not just in crypto, but you're starting to see some selling pressure showing up in a lot of other spaces. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on it. I've always followed the broader economy and real estate and interest rates and all of that. And so you're starting to see some of this, right? And the thing with economic numbers and stock markets is right now the economic numbers look great and all that, but you got to remember that the stock market is a forward pricing mechanism, right? And so if the longer term investors, the smart money, start to really forecast that, hey, earnings are going to slow down, interest rates are going up, inflation's coming back, all that stuff, it's going to come down before the economy, the official economic numbers even begin to show any sign of weakness. So yeah, I've been watching that. I'm looking at this. I mean, you got to remember the stock market went up 40 some percent last year. So it's certainly due for a pullback. And I haven't been too involved in stocks, but I was certainly cashing out here. And I thought I was a little bit too early because I saw it go up a little bit more. But man, when it reverses hard. And I mean, the signs were there, though. I mean, the RSI on the stock market was at 90, which is incredible for stocks, just crazy high. At best, it was due for a pause and a pullback, but we're seeing some pretty big sell action. Now, I wouldn't recommend going short now. We're way overdone very near term. This is super stretched to the downside. But if you're inclined to watch the stock market, to keep an eye. I'd like to see how this plays out over the next couple of weeks, right? Do we get a bounce? Do we put in a big double top with a second lower high and then go from there? But it's not looking good. That's a big volume reversal. So anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the crypto space. But that's a good question. So some of you guys are asking, wouldn't a stock decline boost crypto? Not initially, because what happens is you got to remember crypto is viewed as a higher risk investment, right? So initially, the money from the stock market is not going to go into crypto right away just because it's the stock market's selling off, right? The smart money is going to move into some of the other investments first. Or, I mean, to be honest with you, most of the smart money has been selling into the top anyway. But would it carry over? Not initially, but crypto, in my opinion, it's going to recover much sooner, right? If we see a stock market bear, you're going to see crypto bounce faster and earlier, just because the cycle here is much faster anyway, and we've already been in a longer term correction, right? So crypto is just it's just moving faster and in a little bit of a different cycle. So to date, there hasn't been a lot of correlation. Now, is there an argument to be made that, hey, all this money creation, this money pumping is flowing into stocks and pumping it up? Absolutely. And was it flowing into crypto? Probably, right? And the question is, where is it going to go now, right? Because cash doesn't like to just stay in cash. It usually moves into other assets. There's asset rotation. And so we'll see. Will it come back into crypto eventually? Yes. And keep in mind, guys, I mean, the cryptocurrency market cap is down to 325 billion, 322. That is a significant pullback. And when you look at the big scheme of things, $322 billion compared to the stock market and compared to all of these other asset classes is just tiny, right? I mean, there's several companies worth way more than the entire crypto markets by themselves. And so longer term, that's why I'm still so bullish, because this asset class is just not going away. Yes, they're going to regulate it. Yes, they're going to try to stifle it and tax the heck out of it. And they're going to, that's just the way it's going to go. But at the end of the day, it's not going to go away. Blockchain technology is here to stay. It's going to be an industry. You're going to see broader adoption, and you're just going to see more innovation in the face of all of this crazy regulation and all that censorship. But that's why a longer term, I'm just still so bullish, especially having come off the highs, right? The fact that we've already come down this much, 322 billion is tiny compared to so much. I mean, it's just really a tiny number. It's a huge number. Don't get me wrong. That's a lot of money when you think about it. But in terms of the overall investments asset class, it's just tiny. And yeah, 50 to 75% of coins are garbage. I would say it's much higher than that. I mean, if you look at the number of coins on here, right, there's 1,500 cryptocurrencies. And yeah, the vast majority of those they're copies, they're code, they're this, they're that. They're not that great. But if you look at the total market cap, right, as far as who makes up the top of the list, if you just go down the list, right, that 230 billion, I mean, if you look at just the top 10 names, that's a significant portion of just that. And if you look at the rest of the total market cap, the bottom 80%, wrong chart here. Let me go to this. All right, you can see all other alts are, 22%. And you look at the top names, right? They're more than half, they're more like 60, 70%. So that's what's going to move the market, right? So if you look at these, and if you think most of these names are going to be around, right? Are these quality names? Not all of them are, I know that, but are most of these names going to be around, right? And if so, what are they worth? And that's going to be what you're looking at. You can see, look at most of them it's a mix, right? You got the currency, then you got platform there, platform there, platform there, platform, right? And that's because that's going to be the drivers, the backbones of the industry adoption of crypto, right? It's going to be a lot of that. Are we going to need actual currencies themselves? Yes, but there's just so much platform and industry type of use cases. And so that's what I'm looking at there. 322. We were all talking about $1 trillion here recently, and it's come down a long ways. Quantum has a satellite in space. I saw that. That's kind of cool. For those of you that don't know, I'm a little bit of a space nerd, and so I follow that industry, and yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So give you the silver lining. So the silver lining in this is the fact that we've come off so far. Look at this RSI corresponding with this huge selling. And then what tends to happen is the selling has accelerated towards the lows, and that's generally what happens towards the lows. Now, I'm speaking more from a time perspective, right? Because the actual price, right, the point on the price where it decides to finally settle and reverse hard, nobody knows that. But from a timing perspective, when you start to see this level of acceleration and it starts to really speed up, it's almost like the opposite of what we saw back here, right? When I was talking about, hey, the parabolic potential J curve that was happening, and it was going up, 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 and it started going really fast, right? And when you look at, it took us most of the year to get to 10K, and it only took us a couple of weeks to get from 10K to 20K, right? And you just doubled in a very short time frame. And that's usually how it happens, right? As they say, the last 90% of the move comes at the last tail end of the whole time frame. And so I'm looking at that from a very near-term perspective. I'm saying we're starting to see this big sell-off. It's starting to really accelerate to the downside. RSI is starting to hit these oversold conditions. And so I'm looking at it from a window here and saying, okay, in the next days, if not today, in the next week or so, right, this is going to be the zone where we're going to see the bounce, the big volume reversal, right? At least near term, the pause, the relief rally. Is that the low, right? Is that the low that settles and we base from here, that's anyone's guess. And I'm not going to say that that's going to be the low. In fact, there's nothing longer term pointing to that. If you look at the weekly chart, you could see that, hey, maybe we bounce here, give us a couple green weeks, but maybe we do see that second leg low, that 5K that many of you guys are looking for. And then what will happen after that, when it finally does hit that low, that washout, then there's going to be the period of consolidation, the next accumulation phase, and it's going to look like this, right? So you can see we've had the low, we've had the big relief rallies, and we had the huge spike low, and then this very long period of consolidation, months. And so that's what we're going to expect to see, right? I don't expect to see, we're going to see the big spike low, and then we're going to just really start rallying, and we're going to go past 20K. That would be very unusual. And so I don't expect to see that. What I expect to see is wherever the price finally bottoms, let's say we bounce here and we do see another low, we're going to bounce, and eventually you're going to see one of these type of bases, and it's going to set up the new floor, if you will. And then from there, you're going to see more accumulation happening, and then the rally, right? Now, we're still early on in the year, so could that all take place here in 2018, and then towards the end of 2018, we start to see, above 10K Bitcoin again? It's certainly possible, absolutely, right? Just because the speed at which this market moves, and the fact that, fundamentally speaking, in spite of all the regulation and all that, I mean, the market back here, right, the 2013, 2014 market is much different than the 2018 going into 2019 market. There's hedge funds, and there's potential ETFs, and we have huge amounts of platforms, and just different ICO projects, and just there's so much more development, so much more maturity in the market now than there was even just 2 years ago. And so I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at the rate of adoption is just on a whole nother level. I mean, if you just look at the strict volume that we've seen, I mean, it's just so much bigger. So I would think that, the 2-year bear that we saw back here, it's going to be shortened. Up here, I don't think we'd see a longer 2-year, but we could certainly see this drawn out period of consolidation. And that would ultimately be really good if we see some sort of basing, a new floor established, and then you'll see the next bull run happen after that. So, and so the approach to take during that is, what projects do you believe in? What projects do you think are going to survive the test of time, are going to be around in 2 years or in 3 years? Like Michael from Box Mining, he said it, he put it really well the other day. He said, I'm going to hold coins that if I was abducted by aliens and came back in 3 years, I'd be happy that I was holding those coins. And I thought that was great. And so you gotta take that mindset, especially when you start thinking, hey, we're close to the lows, or we're certainly well off the highs, and in 2 years, in 1 year, 3 years, like, we'll probably be higher than this point. What coins do I want to own at that point, right? What projects do you think will survive and will thrive and start to really become one of the leaders? And that's what you got to look at it that way, right? The quality names, the names that have already stood some of the test of time and have survived and will probably survive, going forward. And so that's what you want to be looking at. Now, trading between now and then, there's going to be plenty of trading, right? And there's good trading, and I like to do both, and I like to trade, and there's going to be a lot of that. And if you look at the weekly, let me go back here. If you look at the weekly chart of this big base, in between here, there's plenty of trading opportunity. This is just Bitcoin, right? And if you look at what the alt market will do in this type of scenario, right, there's going to be plenty of rallies. I mean, even here, peak to peak, right, that's 80%. From this point up, right, that's 42%. From this point up, that's 100%. So there's just these big swings back and forth. There's plenty of trading to do if you're knowing how to do that and wanting to do that. It's certainly a different approach, but there's going to be that. And so trading is going to be around. But as far as the longer term hodl, right? That's what you want to look at. What are those names that I really like, that I really want to start accumulating when the charts really start to base out, and keep an eye on those, because the problem is there's a lot of enthusiasm when the market's going straight up, and rightly so, right? And I get that. And we're all doing research and we're all investigating the next coin and the next ICO, and we're following the conferences and the announcements. And what tends to happen is when the opportunity is best, when we're doing one of these and we're basing out, you tend to lose interest and you tend to not be as excited about it. And you let those, those insights start to kind of go by the wayside. And so that's when you really want to start paying attention. Hey, what's starting to come up? Because what tends to happen is you get this, kind of these stealth rallies in some of these coins that just out of nowhere start coming up, right? And it's easy to not pay attention when everything is just flat and boring and not doing anything. But you gotta keep an eye on those things. And that's what I've done with some of these other markets, right? I've been in crypto very heavy this last couple of years, just watching it, living, breathing it, but still keeping an eye on the stocks and some commodities markets, and not daily for sure, but watching them and saying, hey, what's going on over there? There's a rally starting somewhere else, right? So you got to just keep an eye on that. So let's take a look at a couple more coins, guys. I'm going to go another 10 minutes, and then I will be wrapping it up. Let my voice recover a little bit. Let me go back to BTC here. Still selling off here to BTC 30 minutes. We had this rally attempt about 2 or 3 hours ago, and we're trying to test here this low. We'll see if we can see some more upside action before we break out. If we break out, I really want to see this thing get above, obviously back over 7. But if we got to clear this near-term resistance that we attempted to take out here a little while ago, or we're just forming it, I guess. There was really no clear resistance other than just a moving average on the short term, but we're starting to test it here. So other than the fact that it's oversold and the volume's coming in, there's really nothing else saying that, hey, this is going to get really bullish fast. I'd like to see some more cards come out of the deck, as they say, and we'll go from there. So let me look at a couple of these names here with you guys. Quantum. We looked at this one earlier already, but we'll take a look. So this was one that I was liking earlier versus BTC. It was just sitting real tight. I think it just got hit really hard along with NEO because of some of the crackdown, the China regulation getting even stricter on foreign exchanges and all that. But some of those regional plays are going to get hit. But looking at this one here, 1 hour, just got to see it get above right on this moving average here for now. Pretty good buy volume coming in. You saw this, and then a little bit of a lighter red. Let's see if we can get above. This one closes above. It's only 10 minutes left in this bar, though, so there's really not a whole lot unless you see a pretty big move here in the very near term. The 30-minute chart doesn't look very strong either, just a lot of red, but we'll see if this one turns around here. A lot of these charts are trying to put in a very short-term low right now. ARC. Here in a minute. ARC. Go to the 1 hour chart of ARC. And it had a pretty decent move earlier. 13% on that 1 hour bar, but tons of selling came in here at the top. That's just a big wick at the top. Now the daily chart, it's kind of weird that this volume just really dried up here. We'll see if we can hold. I'm not too excited on that one yet. EOS. Now EOS is really, the broader chart versus BTC, it's still not that bad. It's kind of obviously been under pressure here with most of the markets, but this one's actually not too bad considering what everything else has done. Now, if you zoom in a little bit, the last couple of hours are certainly very ugly bars, and we're undercutting this low. We're trying to put in a little bit of a double bottom to see if we can get one. But for now, I want to see this thing turn around and start to reclaim some of these resistance levels and at least start to flatten out on the chart and turn a base around here. That is, oh, look at that. That's looking a lot stronger than some of these other names. So you can see here in the last several hour bars, nice little potential bull flag forming here on this 4 hour. You can see, let me pull that out here. Not that one here. Let me pull this. Trying to break out of this little bit of a range that it's in here. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get that, but that's not too bad there. You can see the 1 hour chart here. I mean, it's still making a series of higher lows and no, a series of lower lows and lower highs. And so you certainly want to see that pattern broken first, but it'll be interesting to see if we can break out. It's trying here again, so we'll see if we can get some more momentum to the upside on this one. PIVX. Different exchange. That Binance chart was messed up. So yeah, this one's interesting too. Here in the last couple of 4 hour bars, seen a lot of accumulation trying to take place here, but those are some long wicks here at the top. Interesting. Yeah, that's really, I mean, that's some choppy action. If you look at how long these bars are, I mean, that's 20% there. This is 1 hour bars, 15% there. This wick here is big reversal. That's, if you're trading it, that's a tough trade right there, just because I mean it's just so choppy all over the place here. ICX. You can see here we looked at this one. It's a 1 hour bar of ICX. It's trying, actually, it's looking not too bad here on the lows. It's trying to hold this low. It didn't dip quite as much as some of these other names on the secondary pullback. So we'll see if we can close out and finally take out some of this resistance here. But this 1 hour bar here on most of these, I mean, needs to be much bigger. I'd like to see some more volume coming in. 6 minutes left to go on this bar. We'll see if we can get any more action, but most likely it's just going to close like that, and then we'll have to see what the next bar looks like and go from there. Let's see here. Walton. So Walton, very similar pattern here. Walton was such a big runner here a couple weeks ago, pulling in. Let me do a fib on this one. How far back have this come down from that move off the lows? It's basically sitting right at the 382 level. It's undercutted here a couple of times, but so far it's finding support. And so that's going to be a real interesting level to be watching here to see if Walton holds on this support here. So interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's a good point. So somebody just posted, right? There's the SEC, CFTC is going to be making some more announcements here in the next day or so. And so, yes, absolutely, that's going to drive the market. That's going to be some volatility. And, you know, oftentimes, maybe the news is it, right? That's, people are expecting the worst, and then whatever comes out, it's done. Just like we saw in September, where it was one of those, oh, China's going to ban and it's going to be regulation. And then once the news came out, it was done, right? The downside was done. Everyone was like, okay, that was it. And so maybe we see a similar scenario where we're just kind of all on edge waiting, and then the news comes out, it's the worst, or maybe it's not as worse, not as bad as we thought, and we see a little bit of a rally here. I'm hopeful, right? Let's hope. Oh, let's see here. Ardor. I don't know why it's looking like that on some of these exchanges. I'd like to see a lot more volume. Most of the other names had much more volume at these lows. And this one, not as much as I would like to see. So Neo USD attempting a second bounce off the low here. So we had pretty good green volume coming in here. This is the 30-minute chart on Bitfinex. How's it look on Binance? Let me see. Neo USDT on Binance. Again, that, let's just call it $90 mark, 89 and change. really got to be recaptured here in the next couple of hours if this is going to look any stronger. Otherwise, just not looking very strong at all. Big reversal here on selling on that 4 hour. Power. I haven't looked at this one in a bit. Power ledger. Actually pretty good on the 1 hour, holding this moving average, really trying to form a low here. So if it can maintain this, not too bad here actually. Let me see the 30 minutes. It's trying. It's looking all right. Lisk, I think I covered Lisk earlier. Yeah, this one's not quite as strong as some of these other names here. All right. Font stamp. Oh, let's see here. Pretty good here. Double bottom here on this 4 hour chart. I like the volume here on the green so far. This one looks like it's going to close pretty strong here, unless we see a big reversal, but not too bad. So, I mean, this is very defined resistance point on this one over the last couple of days. You can see that little zone in and around there. And so if this double bottom is going to really start to take hold, that's going to be the first level that gets tested. From a percent perspective, let's see here. We are still a good 13% away. So even from a trade, right, a quick trade, if it can rally here, that's the level that I'd be looking at, see if it could, it most likely pause right there. So that's the level I'm looking at here. Crypto is going live. Cool. I'm going to have to go check that one out because my voice is shot and I'm certainly not going to be able to do this live stream for a whole lot longer. Speaking of which, somebody was asking earlier about, I sent a newsletter out at the start of the year with some coins to look at for 2018. Apparently some of you guys are having trouble getting the link or finding the original content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate that newsletter pretty much word for word. I may not post all the pictures, all the fancy pictures and stuff, but I'm going to replicate the newsletter and post it on the website. So noteinvestor.com. I'll go ahead and basically copy over all the content with the list of coins in my ranking there. So look out for that in the next, probably the next day or so. All right, that's going to be it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am feeling my voice go here. And so this, had mentioned earlier, this is my third stream today, plus some other recording I was doing. And yeah, staying up late, getting up early. Gotta love it. But all right, guys, so we know the levels to look for now. Let's keep an eye on this. Again, take it easy, go slow, don't FOMO. If you see the big green candles show up out of nowhere, give it some time. It's okay to maybe take a little entry, but give it some time. There's still a lot of fear. There's still a lot of news hanging out there. And so bottoms don't happen in a day. It's more of a process generally. And same with the tops. And so we'll have to just see how the next few hours play out. I'm liking this green bar here, reversal so far. I'm thinking we're going to see some upside testing. If we can close above some of these levels where the selling's really started to show up, that's going to be an encouraging sign that maybe we're going to see a little bit of a relief rally. I'm thinking we're due. The longer term charts are certainly hitting extreme levels. 4 hour chart hit 20 RSI earlier. The daily chart is sub 30 now. And so you look at how far stretched we are from the moving average, right? Even now we're at 20% below. And every time I've seen those things really all start to line up, it's usually just a matter of time before we get a pretty decent bounce. Volume is very big here at the lows too. So all the signs are there, at least that we're due for a bounce. Now, could we see a second leg down, another big washout? Absolutely. But from a time perspective, next couple of days at most is probably what I'm thinking. We're going to see a little bit of a reversal or a bounce into that. So that's what I'm going to be looking. Thank you guys all for joining. I appreciate the support, appreciate the comments. Even when you disagree or agree, I appreciate it all. And take care, everyone. Talk to you soon.